Today we're going to talk about dividing decimals. Before we start, let's look at how we will talk about a question like this. So to start with, here we have the divisor. That's what we will call it. It's the number that we're using to divide into this number, which is the dividend. Now, these names might be a little difficult to remember, but the point is that these parts do have a name. Now, here we have the answer goes on top. And we sometimes call it, we call it the quotient, but we can say it's the answer. So to get started, step one is placing the decimal, because when we look at this, we can see that this dividend has a decimal within it, and the divisor does not. So what that involves is simply putting the decimal right above this decimal where the answer will go. So by looking at the question, deciding where the decimal goes, that is step one, and we just did that. Therefore, step one is complete. We are now ready to move on to step two, and that is here, rewrite the question. In this case, you can see that we have enough space to do our work, so we don't need to rewrite it for that reason. And the question is clear and ready to go. So now, once we've determined that, we then are able to move on to step three. Step three involves simply doing the division. So now we are going to do the calculation. And we can get started. So before we start, we can look at this question in this way or in this way. So it's actually 254.8 or decimal 8 divided by 4. And it's written also in this format. So we will start off by looking at 2 divided by 4. And since there aren't enough, of course that isn't enough because we can't make a group of 4 out of 2. And so then we must look at 25 divided by 4. Now, do we know how many 4s there are in 25? Well, if you're not 100% sure, you could refer to a T-chart like this. And you could ask yourself, how many 4s are there in 25? Well, if we look over here, we can say there are 2 4s in 8. There are 4 4s in 16. How many 4s are there in 24? Well, there are 6 4s in 24, and that's pretty close to 25. 28 is too much. So therefore, we will then be able to write down 6, and 6 4s will go right above the 25, because that's what we divided into. So now that you've done that, you're going to go 6 times 4, and yes, it is 24. Subtract 1. Now we're ready to bring down the 4, put it there, and then we go 14 divided by 4. We can see here there are 3 4s in 12, and that's pretty close. So therefore, we can put 3 up here, and 3 times 4 is 12. So 12 goes there, subtract, we have 2. And I want you to note here that now that we're here, don't let that confuse you, because this decimal is simply in the question and it does not involve anything to do with our calculation down here. We just simply ignore it at this point. So once again, we were ready to bring down the 8. Now we can say 28 divided by 4 is how much, because that's where the answer will go. If you don't know that one off by heart, you can look down here and you can see in 28 there are 7 4s. So 7 fours in 28. 7 times 4, 28. Subtract 0, 0. And there is your answer. Your quotient or your answer is then 63.7. And now step 3 is complete. So you've done the division, or you've divided with decimals.